Hello there. Today we're going to talk about potential changes to the metagame based on upcoming bans. Fantasy Flight has a stream scheduled on Wednesday, and it's expected that they'll probably do something about the dominance that Jango has right now. But I actually want to start by talking about DJ. And this is a combo that's been out there for a while, and Fantasy Flight hasn't done anything about it. And I think it's kind of a miss on their part, to be honest. And I want to talk about why. But first, I think it's important to talk about why they haven't changed it. And they've said a few things about when they're going to implement a suspension or a ban. And one of the things that they've said, which I can get on board with, is they really want to minimize the amount of errataing that they do, because when you look at a card and you read it, you want the card to do what it says on the card, right? And I'm aligned with that. I think it's a rule that can be broken to fix the game, but that's a great place to operate from. The other reason why they haven't done away with the Tech DJ combo is because it hasn't dominated the field that much, right? It seems like the designers are very data driven, and they're looking at the performance of certain decks, and they haven't seen that Han has gotten out of control. And that's another thing that I can get on board with. I think data, gives solid decisions, but I think they're missing something here. And it's kind of the same reason that I think they're going to do something about Jango. Um, the Tech DJ combo is kind of a negative play experience, right? It just feels bad when this happens to you. And in my personal life, I'm a brand manager, right? And so I'm responsible for maintaining the image of a brand, right? And anytime that you have something that just feels bad, that's kind of a negative play experience, I think we have to look at trumping those first two rules that Fantasy Flight has. Because if we think about the brand of Star Wars Unlimited, what is that brand about, right? It's about Star Wars, check. They've nailed that. It's about fun, right? I mean, people want to have fun. And if they're not having fun playing the game, then they're not going to play the game. And that's bad, right? And you can go to a tournament, you can be a casual player, go to a tournament and get rolled by a bunch of really competitive decks. And I think you can just admire how those decks beat you. But when you get beat by Tech DJ, it's not fun, right? If you're a new player that's going to a competitive tournament for the first time and you get rolled by this, it just feels bad. And that's why I think that they've got to address this. So there's a couple options that they could do. One, they could suspend DJ. I think that's probably what they would lean towards. I actually think that DJ's fine. It's still super powerful for Han to be able to DJ a resource away from your opponent. And I think it actually feels kind of fair if you can eventually get the resource back by getting rid of DJ. So personally, I would break one of FFG's rules here, and I would errata Han to say, at the start of the next action phase, defeat a resource you own and control. There's already kind of a precedent for that with the Lando leader. They didn't necessarily intend for DJ to be destroying opponents' resources, right? So I think that would be fine. In terms of, the card doesn't do what it says it does anymore. Well, I get that. But if we look at the larger picture, right, the competitive players are all going to know about this, right? It's not going to be a problem. If we're worried about the casual players not knowing that this interaction doesn't work, this is a fairly complicated interaction. They probably didn't know it worked in the first place, right? So I feel pretty good about that as an errata. I think it would be good for the game because this is really, I think it's the deck that feels the worst to play against, even more so than Jango, because if you don't have an answer, you're just dead. So personally, I think FFG should break their rules on this one. and fix it, data aside. Okay, let's talk about Jango. This is kind of another negative play experience. And it's not necessarily a negative play experience because of the fact that the deck is strong. It's a negative play experience because the deck is so strong that everyone's playing it, right? So I played in the sector qualifier in Denver this weekend. And even after I scrubbed out of the main event and went to play in side events, people were trying to farm tickets, right? So I played in a 4-round tournament, and 3 out of the 4 rounds I played a Jango Tarkin Down deck, right? I thought it was supposed to be like a more casual tournament. Fortunately, I performed very well into the Jango Tarkin Downs, but it's just not fun to go play for a weekend and play against the same deck 5 times in a weekend, maybe 7 times in a weekend. And I think FFG will definitely address this because it's just too strong, right? If you look at the conversion rates, it's converting at a way higher rate than all of the other decks. At that tournament, the finals was a Jango versus Jango mirror. Other tournaments have been seeing Jango win. There are decks that can beat it, but I think it's just too strong. And part of the reason it's so strong is because there are elements that kind of feel a little bit unfair, right? And so I'm guessing everyone's familiar with this, but just in case you're not, very briefly, Triple Dark Raid lets you cheat out vehicles faster, right? It's resource cheating. There are a bunch of phenomenal vehicles in the Jango deck, but the 2 really nasty ones are War Juggernaut and Devastator, right? So if you have Jango flipped and you TDR into War Juggernaut, it taps down every single unit that your opponent has. That is disgusting, right? And so you can do that on the 5 resource turn when Jango is flipped. Then the War Juggernaut goes back to your hand after it attacks for, a bunch of damage because it's super strong. And you can do it again on 6 resources because you play the same War Juggernaut, right? So it's 2 turns of not getting to do anything, which is super lame. And Devastator is not much better, right? So when Devastator gets TDR'd, it's doing 4 damage. That's indirect damage that you assign, right? So you can do it to base if you want. You can also take out units if you want. You can spread it out. If Jango's still flipped, right, you can tap down 4 units if you want. But then if you don't have an answer to somehow tap down Devastator or bounce it or something, it's hitting you for 9 more, right? So this is a 13 damage play for 6 resources, right? Because Triple Dark Raid effectively makes Devastator 6 resources cheaper, and it's 13 to base that you basically can do nothing about. And in day 1 of the event, I actually thought I was teched pretty well into Jango, and I only played him once, and both games Devastator hit me for 13 to end the game. I thought I was stabilizing, and it was just over. And so this is too powerful. Another reason why I personally don't like it is it's very high variance, right? So in the mirrors, a lot of times whoever gets the best Triple Dark Raid wins. But also, do you really want to win or lose a game based on the random chance of what's in the top 7 cards of your deck, right? Like, personally, I'd rather know what's in my hand, what's in my resource row that I can smuggle, and play around that, the things under my control, to try to win or lose the game. Triple Dark Raid, folks can play it and whiff and get nothing. They can get, a vehicle that hits for 2, or they can hit your base for 13, right? So the variance on this card is just nuts. It's also super, super strong, just Triple Dark Raid itself, right? Because it's effectively resource cheating for 2. And there's really no penalty, right? Because the the it doesn't even put the unit into play exhausted. It comes in ready. So it's better than resource cheating. And the card goes back to your hand, right? If it was defeated at the end of the phase, or if it went on the bottom of your deck or something like that, then it wouldn't be quite as busted. But the fact that it goes back to your hand means that it's resource advantage, tempo advantage, and card advantage. And when there weren't that many vehicles, it wasn't that big of a deal. But now it's just busted. So I'm pretty sure Fantasy Flight's going to do something about this on Wednesday. So what are their options? Well, number one, they could suspend Jango. Personally, I don't think that's the best option. I think Jango fills a really good spot in the meta where we saw the number of Sabine decks come down. And I think that's a pretty healthy thing. I think he is an effective mid-range deck. I just think he's busted because of Triple Dark Raid. So option number two, they could suspend Triple Dark Raid. Now that would hurt a few other decks. There's some Piet yellow decks and a couple others out there. Personally, I think that's the right way to go. Even the Piet yellow decks, I played one this weekend, and I Triple Dark Raided Devastator on my 5 resource turn. The green big Devastator, right? I mean, that's pretty busted. I'm destroying a unit and I'm hitting your base for 10 on 5 resources. High variance. It's just there's no downside to playing it. So I'm okay with taking this out of the play pool, even though it weakens a few other decks. Another option might be to errata TDR to say, at the end of the phase, defeat that unit, put it on the bottom of your deck, something like that. I don't think FFG will go that way for a couple reasons. One is it breaks one of their rules, right? Another one is it's still pretty strong. I think if you did that, Jango would still see a ton of play unless you did things like also suspending the War Juggernaut, because you'd still have the option to swing in for 13 damage with Devastator. So personally, I would suspend Triple Dark Raid. I think Jango would still be absolutely tier 1. He has a lot of really, really cool cards that he got this set. But this would bring him down to, I think, a reasonable level. So what do we do from here? Well, first off, I think there's a couple things. One is let Fantasy Flight know what you think. That's basically what I'm doing, right? I'm hoping that they're going to watch this. I was very impressed this weekend with Fantasy Flight's ability to respond to player feedback. I think I'm going to do another video about that tomorrow. And a quick teaser, I'm going to have a special guest on that one that should be pretty exciting, and I think it'll be worth checking out. But it's awesome. Fantasy Flight actually listens to us. And so there are a number of ways to let them know what you think. You can comment on this video. You could make your own video. You could post something on Reddit or Instagram or send them an email. I think the more feedback they get today and tomorrow before Wednesday, the better. Another thing that I personally did was I sold a bunch of Triple Dark Raids. So Triple Dark Raid's pretty expensive right now. It's between 13 and 14 bucks. And I didn't even know how many I had. I knew I had a few, but I looked through my binder and I actually had 10 Triple Dark Raids. I guess I got lucky. So I sold 6 of them because I'm guessing it's going to drop in price after Wednesday. Whether they suspend it or do something else, if they suspend Jango, I'm guessing it'll come down to 7 or 8 or something like that. So if you have extras, that's a pro tip that you get from watching this channel. Get rid of them. This isn't really related to the conversation as a whole, but it's just a bonus for you for sticking around this long. I would pick up Radiant Sevens if you haven't. Uh, it's a pretty strong card. It's strong in Jango. It's strong in Piet. It's actually strong in a lot of different places. The ability to basically punish your opponent for getting valued trades earlier in the game where they've, killed your unit with the unit that had more health and is still on the board uh, is pretty awesome. In the finals this weekend, Radiant was pretty relevant, and at $4, I would pick up a place out of these because I'm guessing that they'll probably be 7 or 8 in the next week. Could be wrong, but it's a good one. So I hope this was valuable for you. Please let Fantasy Flight know what you think, and be sure to check out the video tomorrow where we'll talk about another thing that I think Fantasy Flight did right, and I'm pretty proud of them for it. Take care.